all that. There's legal risk that many people do not think about, contractual risk, and the other biggest risk is the financing part of risk. Because in the oil and gas sector, many times, so for instance, like if it rains, when we had a COVID, contracts had to be stopped. So how do you manage that risk and be able to finish a contract? But also in the bidding process, many companies fail to put in a risk factor. So for instance, something like insurance, that you have, a company tells you have to have comprehensive insurance for all the employees, and you have to have third-party liability, and then you have to have these permits like from NEMA or from where for you to be able to win a contract. And many Ugandan companies have not been looking at this, and that is one of the reasons why they have missed a contract. So we are here today. Unoc is actually giving the overall. We have Petroleum Authority of Uganda to look at the contractual risks. What are those things that are required within the national content regulations and the petroleum laws that many Ugandan suppliers do not actually put in? And we have two amazing banks. We have Stanbic Bank, which has been dealing with a lot of oil and gas suppliers, and they are going to give us live experience of how Ugandan suppliers have actually not been able to factor in risk, the challenges they have faced, and how the bank has supported them to mitigate them. And also from Equity Bank. Equity Bank is going to tell us about how do you access finance, because most of the people think that it is only through loans or whatever, but there are so many products these banks have that can actually even make you pay lower interest rates. Instead of buying, you can go for leasing. And I mean, these are the things we want Ugandan suppliers to know as we prepare for 2023, when most of the oil and gas activity is going to happen. So we do not want from today to find a Ugandan company missing a contract because they did not factor risk into their bidding documents, or lose a contract because of the risk factors they did not foresee and mitigate.
Thank you very much. But just briefly, before I let you go, I've been told this is the fourth workshop. If you can tell us what was really happening in the first three workshops that were held this year.
Okay, the first one we held was after the final investment decision was made, and that one specifically looked at how Ugandan companies can participate, because many people were hearing FID, and it was like, what does FID mean? Final investment decision, what does it mean to a Ugandan contractor? And we had to tell them briefly that FID means that the oil companies have now made a decision to go ahead with a project. So they are no longer going to turn back. The monies have been found. Their parent companies have approved it. And then all the oil and gas laws and regulations of Uganda and internationally have been complied with. So how are Ugandans going to be able to participate? As Tier 1 contractors, those are the main contractors, the 40 main contracts. And then under each one of those 40 main contracts, there are so many subcontracts. So we were giving them that breakdown that, okay, under this contract, there are so many subcontracts that can be taken up by Ugandans. And I mean, some of them is like catering services, accommodation, that are easily, transportation, forwarding and clearing, that can easily be done by Ugandans, but also the jobs that are available within them. And so that was mainly the gist of that one. And then we had to go to Hoima for indirect and induced supplier workshop services. Why we went to Hoima is that people from the Alberta and Graben may not necessarily be able to take on the big contracts. It is like going to Hoima. You cannot find big supermarkets like you find them in Uganda. But then it is how can they participate? So the way we're telling them to participate is that actually you may not even be part of the value chain to be able to tap into oil and gas money. And so how do you do that? By strategically positioning your business. You can be selling fruits on the street. You can have a salon. You can have a food joint. yeah, and a bar or something like that. You can actually supply food to the hotels where these companies are going to have workshops. So there's so many different ways in which they can tap into these services, but also we supported them to register on the National Supplier Database, and also the manpower, especially people who are working at the airport now, for them to be absorbed on the National Oil and Gas Talent Register, so that when these oil companies, they go live next year, then these people will be readily available to work. And then we had an East African SME workshop. This one we did with Stambig Incubator, and the purpose of that one was to bring suppliers together to see how they can work together as Ugandan suppliers, to be able to jointly bid, to be able to see that if a contract wants part A, B, and C, I have A, where do I get somebody to bring in B and C, so we can bid together and be able to win that contract. So precisely that's what the three were about.
Many thanks for joining us and giving us this brief introduction of what we expect here. Thank you very much.
Wow.
And back to the viewers out there of Smart Means Business. And of course, as I'm giving you more of the updates coming in here from the Kampala Sheraton Hotel. Just a quick one. The theme of this particular risk supply development workshop is that contract risk, and it's going to be mainly driven around contract risk and financial management in the oil and gas sector of Uganda. This particular one, the discussions and conversations regarding Uganda's oil and gas is what most of the Ugandans really need to be part of. And of course today we look at the suppliers themselves, because there are lots of risks that are attached to the sector. But how do we mitigate these particular ones, and how do we walk out of them just in case something wrong happens? And of course we shall be giving you more of the details. Keep your eyes glued on Smart 24 TV. More updates to proceed in our programming today. Speaking of which, even in the bulletin tonight in business today, we shall be giving you a well-detailed report on this particular workshop. I'm Joram Paul Sonko, and I'm heading back to studio with Chantal and Andrew Berige to drive your business this particular morning. Have a blessed one. Good morning.
It's been a wonderful conversation. We were talking to the content specialist, that is Miss Jessica Cheyune, and that is from the Ugandan National Oil Company. And today there is this workshop taking place at Sheraton. And if you are someone that is worried about the risks that are involved when it comes to this particular sector, the oil sector, then you might want to stay tuned, because we're going to be bringing you every single detail of what would have transpired, especially because we understand you may not have the time to sit in this workshop.
Yeah, definitely. But you know, it's very interesting that actually such drives have been, such initiatives to ensure that Ugandans partake of the oil and gas exploitation have been really ongoing. I think since last year. Yes. You know, and you know, there is that entire aspect of being put onto the National Supplier Database that companies should actually fulfill the requirements, and they should be actually listed on the National Supplier Database. Yes. That's if they are to really participate in the oil and gas sector. Remember, this is quite a very wide sector, and you know, if you are to look at the occupations, the possible opportunities which are there, we look at you know, engineering, you know, chemical engineering, and so many, you know, surveying, you know, so quite so many. But the question was, how can Ugandans also be in position to really participate and benefit from the oil and gas sector? So that's where we see, you know, she mentioned about the 49 contracts. And among those contracts, we have subcontracts. Yeah, the first year, the ones that take the 40, and then the subcontractors under the 40. For me, the take home was majorly about the fact that many suppliers are getting into this field blindly. Yes. Without putting into consideration the risks that are associated. Yeah. So this workshop, majorly, my take home is meant to equip this supplier with all the necessary information when it comes to risk, so that when you are quoting, when you are trying to get to do business with this in this industry, you are aware of what you're getting yourself into, how to mitigate these risks, and how best you can obtain value from this industry. And I think that is something government has really tried to do, because we were, you know,
when this project started, very many individuals came out and they expressed concern over the fact that sometimes projects are taken on and Ugandans are not benefiting from these projects. Yeah. But, well, this is good news. At least Ugandans are now being trained and taught and given information that is relevant. And it's now people-centric.
Very.
Yes,
very.
It sounds people-centric.
There is no excuse this time around.
Yes. So, well, we are going to be getting you all the updates. Jerome Paul Sonko is at Sheraton, Kampala. And don't forget, in tonight's bulletin, you will be having every single detail and more exclusives coming your way. I mean, it's smart and we drive business, so that is what we're here to do. We're going to be getting into our business entertainment.
Yeah.
With Barija himself.
Of course, let's get into a brief, very short break, and of course, we shall be getting into those updates.